Mitch grew up the fat kid. He was insecure, hiding in hoodies and avoiding photos. And he had tried like every fad, every diet under the sun, low carb, fat burners, hours of cardio, and kept losing the same 20 pounds over and over again. Then in his 20s, he hit rock bottom with a bowel obstruction. That was his wake-up call. And he finally ditched the extremes and uncovered a system that actually worked and was sustainable for real life. He dropped 60 pounds and kept it off for over 20 years, simultaneously turning his mess into a mission. Now he helps other busy parents do the same without the BS. Mitch is a Winnipeg-based fitness and nutrition coach who's helped over 1,500 busy parents drop fat and gain confidence and feel 20 years younger without giving up the fries or fun. Through what he calls the Big Five framework that simplifies fitness for real life. No fads, no extremes, just sustainable results that stick. He's also a columnist for the Winnipeg Free Press and the founder of Calvert, where he helps high-achieving mums and dads turn back the clock one habit at a time. Now, if you're over 40, tired of starting over, and ready to find something that works, this episode is for you. Mitch, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. You've got the accent for podcasting, so kudos to you. It sounds like an HBO special or something. I'm loving it.
Oh, there we go. I'd like to thank my parents. Thank you, mum and dad, for that. Mate, take me back. I'm super interested to find out, because I struggled myself in school with weight and that sort of stuff. Tell me about the hiding in hoodies and not wanting to take photos. Like when did it become a problem for you in your childhood or teenage years?
Yeah, I moved to a big city when I was 10. I was in a small community before that, and I didn't get made fun of for my weight. I was just one of the kids, and I grew up with the same core group of friends. But it was a rude awakening going to a brand new school, new culture. And I started to get teased a bit because I was the new kid on the block. Plus, I carried around a few extra pounds, and that's putting it lightly, right? So I became a kind of an expert on just kind of hiding in a public space and being able to kind of stay on the periphery in class, outside of class, and just sort of get my life gratification from video games and junk food, right? It was kind of a slippery slope. I continued to spiral down for quite some time from there.
Did your parents sort of intervene at all? Were they kind of like, hey, Mitch, you need to be a bit more active. We can see you're gaining a few pounds, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, they kind of enabled me. I mean, they weren't totally out of shape themselves, so there wasn't like I was modeling their behaviors, but they wouldn't like step in if I was asking for an extra serving of pancakes or whatever. My mom kept me well fed, and that was her act of love, and I there's no regrets there, but at some point I maybe could have benefited from a bit of tough love. That didn't come. And I don't know if there's the right answer there. I sort of had to discover that change for myself, I think, anyway, but it may have helped to be kind of prodded into the right direction sooner.
Yeah.
That moment never came.
Yeah, I know what you mean. My mum was super nurturing, and I do think she played a part early on, like as a treat, it'd be like, hey, we'd go to the dairy, or what you guys probably call the corner store, and you would go over there and, get a bag of chips or lollies or whatever. And so it was always like, if you're good, that equals junk food, basically, Walk me into where the struggle for you in your early 20s, you were trying every diet under the sun. Walk me through that period of time, like the psychology going behind it. Like, you obviously trying. You weren't just kind of like, hey, this is my lot, I'm going to deal with it. Yeah. Walk me through that period of time.
Yeah, it definitely came to a head in my 20s, like preparing to go to, I was in college, and you're just more aware of the opposite sex and about physical appearance. And so there was some motivation there, frankly, to look a little better. And I knew all that in high school, but I was able to kind of find gratification in other areas and didn't really take it that seriously. Even though I had some rock bottom moments in high school that would have, obviously motivated the average person to get fit, it didn't really work for me in the long run. So during my 20s, it was either starving myself, getting skinny temporarily, and then rebounding and eating myself back to the heavier weight, almost at a worse body composition, or going down those rabbit holes that were kind of in vogue at the time. They're cyclical, right? Keto's kind of back in the news, and you can do that right, I suppose. Some people can. I tried to do it and I kind of bastardized it and fell off the wagon and binged and then purged and got kind of stuck in that vicious cycle that we tend to get into.
Yeah, because some people swear by keto, right? When you say bastardize it, do you mean you stuck to it, but then you would binge, so you would go in and out of ketosis? Yeah?
More or less, yeah. And I wasn't consuming enough fiber to kind of account for the lack of carbohydrates. So that's kind of what landed me in the ER that one time, because I hadn't gone number 2 for like 4 or 5 days, and I was wondering what was up, and it was largely due to the lack of fiber in my diet, right? I wasn't supplementing with Metamucil, or, you're supposed to have some trace amount of vegetables, and I was sort of just loading up on meat and not much else. So, there's a right way to do it. I just found in the long run, it wasn't sustainable for me because I like my carbs and my fruits and kind of wanted to have a bit more of a balance to it. And that's kind of what eventually led me to more sustainable practices.
Yeah, who doesn't like their carbs, mate? I know for me, I've experimented with a number of water fasts. I must be up to around a dozen different water fasts now. I did one maybe three months back, a 7-day. And, by day 3, you're just kind of like this, when's this pain going to end, Yeah. Water and black coffee. With a sprinkle of cinnamon, I might add, as a treat. Yeah, stop it. Around day 4, those ketones will kick in, and you'll get, sort of like your brain starts using this different energy resource. Did you experiment with fasting at all? Like, did you use that as a hack to get into ketosis, or?
Not at the same time, but I kind of dabbled with that later, and I found it was fairly effective in moderation for me. I'd done the longer fasts, and I found it was just, my mood kind of would darken. I'd be short with people, short with my kids, short with my clients. Everyone was kind of impacted by it. So I know some people swear by it. They get kind of in this euphoric state. I guess I didn't run it long enough to benefit from that, but now I sort of give my digestion a break from like 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next day. So 14, 15 hours at kind of the top end. So roughly that would be defined as kind of that 16-8 intermittent fasting approach. That seems to be the sweet spot for me, to still get the benefits, to still get enough protein in my diet, still supplement to support my workouts. But yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just trying to find what works for you so that you can work it forever. Because that's the only way results last, is if it's something you can do for the long run. And unfortunately, I learned that the hard way, doing so many things short term that worked until they didn't, and then ending up right back where I started. It was a really frustrating cycle for a long time there.
Yeah. No, you're preaching to the choir. Very, very similar kind of journey. And I love how you said find the sweet spot. Like you said, the 16-8. It doesn't have to be 16-8. What works for you? I know what you mean about other people being affected by your fast. I literally, on this fast, I drove away of, kitted my van out with solar and a fridge freezer and all that. And I literally said on date, because I knew I could get through day 1 okay. And I said to my family, day 2, I'm going away for 2 days because I needed that day 4, day 5 to kick in.
Yeah.
You don't want me to be here either. So literally went camping just by myself and just regretted life for 2 days. And got through it, man, and got through it. Let's talk about sustainability because, man, this has plagued me. Okay, I've dropped 100 pounds. It took 4.5 years. The original goal was actually 11 months to lose 40 kgs, which is just around 5 kgs shy of 100 pounds. And it plagued me, man, back and forth, tried everything under the sun. And now I've found sustainability. Let's talk about that because I feel like that is the big unlock for a lot of people, right? So many people, I'll try this and do that, and they're back and forth. And I think what happens internally, psychologically, is you stop trusting yourself and you think, I know how this ends, so why even try? And that's where you can get into, being morbidly obese and that sort of thing. So talk to me about sustainability. Where was that unlock for you? When did you decide, hey, gee, I just need to do it this way?
Yeah, I think I kind of came about the hard way, certainly by trying everything first that didn't work long run. And you know yourself, when you've been really heavy and you lose a lot of weight, yes, your fat cells shrink, but you're more susceptible to weight regain than the average person that's always been 180 pounds, for example, right? So you need to master maintenance, whatever that looks like to you, whatever your goal weight is. For me, I feel my best a little bit heavier than the fitness magazines would have you believe is perfect. Like I've starved myself down and I tried to sustain a six pack for a long time. And it did impact other areas of my life in negative ways. Whereas if I'm floating up against 20% body fat, I'm not on the cover of a magazine, but my sleep improves, my work productivity is great, and I don't feel hungry all the time. I'm sustaining my weight with maintenance calories, and that's really the magic for me is maintenance. Because you're not overstuffed, you're not starving, you have good energy for your workouts, you sleep well. It's just like trying to figure out what that looks like to you. And I like the 80-20 rule, and it's been overused, but 80% nutritious foods, 20% fun foods. I don't like to call them bad or clean or what dirty or whatever. I think that gives things bad connotations. But you probably realize what a nutritious food is versus, fun food, and making sure that that balance is struck and that your calories are accounted for, and you'll be just fine to have that cookie or two after dinner and ultimately still succeed here in the long run, which is what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, what's maintenance for you? Let's dive into the details. Like, what's your daily, how many calories you consuming on maintenance?
Yeah, the benefit now is I've built up a fair bit of muscle, so my maintenance is probably near as much as I ate in junk food back in the day, right? Like 2,500 to 3,000 calories is totally fine for me to maintain my weight. It can even go a little bit higher at times if I'm extra active or playing hockey more than once a week. But yeah, that's kind of the floor is 2,500, upwards of 3,000, 200 plus grams of protein. That kind of takes the edge off my appetite. And I don't have to track it, but often I will if I'm dialing it in just to making sure, okay, well, might be time to focus on fat loss, even if it's just for 6-8 weeks, get a true baseline, and then I will track again like I used to back in the day. I mean, tracking really served a purpose for me to get to where I got. Now I can eyeball and do a pretty good job, but I still need tracking if my goal is specific enough that it requires fat loss, because, my eyes and my appetite will far exceed what a tracker will show if I don't actually do the math right and look at it that way.
Yeah, and sometimes you can be have a little internal bias. It's about right, and one more scoop or whatever.
Yeah.
I relentlessly track, in saying that you're a lot further down the journey than I am. You've achieved your weight goal and you've maintained it for a long time. I'm quite new to being at this weight, so yeah, I relentlessly track. Let's talk apps for a minute. So this podcast is sponsored by one particular app, but I use MyFitnessPal. Is there an app that you recommend to your clients, or?
Yeah, that's the go-to one that seems to have, across the board, pretty good user experience, good database. It's fairly intuitive once you've got it loaded up with your regular stuff, regular meals. So tracking process takes a lot less time. I'm bullish and hopeful that meal scanning will be the next iteration of tracking, where you can take a picture and it's super accurate. It's not super accurate right now, right? It can confuse a potato and a peach, and it's like I've experimented, and maybe the technology's improved since I've experimented, but it just wasn't accurate enough to make that recommendation. But that is built within MyFitnessPal as well now as an option to take a pic, and it loads up and gives you rough idea of what the calories are for each thing. So that might be the next way with AI continues to evolve. But yeah, MyFitnessPal is the one for nutrition tracking. I mean, I have others for workouts, but that would be the gold standard, I think, still.
Yeah, they may need to get Elon Musk on board, mate. He would sort that out in a couple.
Yes,
I reckon that'd be accurate. This would probably be a good time to segue into how you help other people. So you took the lessons you learned. You're obviously super passionate about it like I am, and you thought, hey, I want to help impact other lives and help them avoid the years of pain that I went through, the yo-yo dieting back and forth. So let's talk about the concept when you thought, gee, I want to do this now as a career. Like, how did that idea spark in you? And when was it? How many years ago now?
Yeah, so the actual blog, which was the original stepping stone to the business was in 2012. I, registered the URL, mitchcalvert.com, my own name. It was still available, and just kind of got my journey out there because I had lost the weight by that point, and I just kind of wanted to share what worked for me and how I was evolving things from there. Didn't really see a future as a coach necessarily, but as I went down other career paths, this was all the stuff I would spend my spare time focused on, right? Nutrition, reading PubMed, all my extra time. Like, I think I may have to make a career of this because it's what lights me up, right? It feels like it's the most interesting thing in my life. And if I can build a mission around this, awesome. If I can get paid to do it, bonus. And kind of back my way into that. Like, I worked more of a communications role for a gym locally here. It was a big box gym, and started moonlighting as a personal trainer after I got the credentials there. So I did that kind of on the side as a side hustle for a few years. My main frustration with that was you could give people a good workout, but then they're left to their own devices the rest of the 23 hours of the day. And that's where true transformation happens. So that's really what I've tried to evolve and develop as a process, with something that keeps people accountable when they need it most, when they're left to their own devices typically. And that's where we're at today.
I personally feel nutrition's like 80% of it. What are your thoughts on that as far as working out and nutrition as far as dropping fat goes?
Yeah, I don't love to put percentages on it, but nutrition drives fat loss. What we're doing the weight training piece for is preserving muscle so that the weight you do lose is primarily fat, right? Because the studies are clear on this. You use GLP-1 drug like Ozempic, or you just do, calorie restriction and cardio only, and you lose up 30-40% of the weight on the scale in lean mass, water, muscle, bone. And that's all the stuff we want to preserve for your metabolism, but also for how you look, how you perform, how you feel, how you age gracefully. So a real big part of my process is thinking, how do we focus on quality pounds, not just quantity, and ensure you're toning up, getting stronger at the same time. And that's where the challenge lies, is getting people to be a bit more patient and focus on those variables that are going to preserve the good stuff while throwing out the bad.
Talk to me about you've got a big 5 framework. Talk to me about your framework. Share how you walk people through that.
Yeah, simplicity is king, right? The more complex the plan is, the more skeptical I am of it, because at the end of the day, the basics work best. So our big 5 framework is 5 things they kind of check off each day that they're focused on, and we're confident they'll get the results we promise if they're 80% compliant to those. So the first one is what we call the CAP framework. So that's the nutrition tracking piece, but it's just calories and protein. You get within your goal for the day, plus or minus 10%. That's going to drive most of the fat loss, right? Is that nutrition piece. And when we have that data, we know we can adjust when needed because it's all there in the app. And it's like, okay, she didn't lose a pound for the last couple of weeks. We may have to tweak something. And that really helps my job become easier as a coach. The second one is your water intake. That's super obvious, but it's hard to change your situation without hydration. And I hope you talk in liters where you're at. Okay. 2 to 4 liters is generally the sweet spot. We call it the 3L club. 3 liters a day. You can get water, of course, from coffee, tea, and like sugar-free beverages too, if that's your thing. It's just trying to get most from pure H2O is a good thing. And it takes the edge off your appetite. You can tell the difference between thirst and hunger that way. And well, your whole body operates on water. So we want you hydrated for your workouts and your brain benefits, right? Third one is the daily step goal, right? So you probably understand that, the diet becomes easier if you move more. And that 8 to 10,000 steps a day does a lot more for fat loss than that boot camp you went to after work, right? Because simple math, 30 minutes of hard exercise versus a whole day of moving around, one's going to have a big needle mover, right, on your calorie burn. Number 4, if I remember correctly, is sleep. Yeah, because that's really where you're breathing out body fat, you're recovering, you just have more willpower and energy the next day to do everything you need to do. So it really does form the foundation. And then last but not least, we kind of talked about that is having that strength training component. Whether it's 2 or 3 full body routines, 30 minutes in and out, you're just using weight that challenges you. Doesn't have to be really fancy or exotic, but we want you using enough weight that tells your muscles, okay, we got to stick around because we're needed here. And then that's going to, serve your diet a lot better. You're going to lose primarily fat, and you're less likely to rebound if you got that metabolism muscle on your frame, right?
Very cool. I read a study, the source escapes me, but it blew my mind. It was around sleep. And it was, if you're trying to drop weight and you're on a calorie deficit, and it was saying the difference between something like 5.5 hours and 7.5 hours means the difference between like losing extra muscle. So the shorter sleep period, you'll actually lose a little muscle as well. So yeah, sleep, super important, especially as far as body composition goes. Mitch, part of the mission of this podcast is to inspire people to, if they're on this journey, not give up. If they've given up, to restart, and work out what's sustainable and healthy for them. And it's story-based. Can you pull up one or two stories from your clients, something that can help impact and move the audience of transformations?
Absolutely. Yeah. We had a handful of people lose over 100 pounds last year. Well, some took closer to 16 months, just off recollection. But they all need like a turning point, a trigger to get started. Like for one, Sean, it was like having to move a family out of a row in the airplane because they didn't have a seatbelt extender in his row. And the family of screaming kids had to go to the back. And so he had to be paraded up to the front. A really big, a traumatic experience for him. To have, your weight basically exposed in public like that. So he reached out within days of that. And I think that's been kind of his driving why. Not to say you're not going to have speed wobbles along the way. Like he's lost over 100 pounds, but at times the scale went back up 5 pounds, right? He went on vacation, he fell off for a little bit. But the big key is like just having a short memory and like try it again, because it's the real long layoffs that get people in trouble. Because you're never going to be fully done with this journey. I myself still have room for improvement, still have times where I struggle. And it's just about having the mindset that you're never going to quit, never throwing the towel, and that's how you win eventually. Right? I think that's really where the secret lies for all of us.
Yeah. I'm kind of visualizing it now, being on that plane and, man, especially in front of your family, like the shame he would have went through. But it's funny, it's often, these, in your darkest moments, it's what is the catalyst to spark that change, right? And in this case, like if he could, I'm sure if he went back in time, if he could go through that or not go through it, he'd go through that because that's what helped him lose the 100 pounds, right? Anything else that comes to mind with one of your clients as far as something life-changing?
Yeah, I mean, there was one where his wife found out she was pregnant, right? And that was this trigger point. He looked in the mirror that day and he's like, I want to be around for this kid. I want to walk her down the aisle in 20, 30 years. That takes longer to get married nowadays, so probably 30 plus. So he had to be around. He had to be around for that. And that was his forcing function. Like I had a forcing function too of hitting rock bottom in high school gym class. And, getting called out because the gym teacher at the time thought it was a good idea to bring around one of those Omron body fat testers. It was new technology at the time. We all know they're not very accurate, but we all had to grip it. And he ranked the boys, I guess, in the class from first to worst. And, my body fat percentage was at the bottom, right? So that was sort of my holy crap moment of this weight thing I could hide in the shadows, but if I'm called out, wow, I need to do something about this. So I'm thankful actually to that gym teacher because I'm not sure if I would have found the drive myself on my own. I would have kept rationalizing, oh, it's okay, I'll deal with this later down the road, and down the road may never have come, right? So yeah, in the end, that worked out for me. Yeah. Going a little all over the place on you here, but yeah, it's just coming to mind, unearthing some old stuff for me. So
exactly, man. Mitch, some advice for the audience. Like if they could be 30, 40, they could be 100 pounds overweight. Where do they start? Like what's the first step for them? They're hating their lives. It's a daily struggle. They're avoiding mirrors. They don't want to take photos with their friends. The worst thing for them is when, the office says, hey, listen, we're going to get a team photo. And they're like, can I pull a sickie that day? Where do they start?
And I'll take a little bit of a different slant to this because we all understand atomic habits and like baby steps and start walking 2 minutes around the block and build up from there. What I required was actually to go all in and burn the boats and like fully commit. Like I heard a coach way back in the day that finally got me off that roller coaster of yo-yoing because I was committed to something, and losing 60 pounds was tied to losing my video games at the time. I don't know. I don't think I've shared that with you yet, but my dad knew about it. A sticky note on my computer. If I don't lose 60 pounds this year, I can't play a video game again, or at least for a year. I can't remember the exact commitment, but it was enough to get me motivated off the couch because I loved it.
Huge motivator.
Yeah, I loved my video games at the time. Yeah. And I came across a book called The Blackmail Diet like several years later. I'm like, oh, wow, I used this concept without realizing it, right? Because the author puts like $5,000 in escrow and his lawyer is going to give it to the Nazi party or something if he doesn't hit his weight loss goal. So this guy had a lot of incentive. So that worked for me, and it's worked for many, is to really go all in, burn the boats. Not to say you're not going to fail along the way and slip up, but I think sometimes we don't commit enough, and we take too small steps that we don't get much momentum going and we don't see enough results, and then that's when we fizzle out. So at least for me and for a lot of our clients, like fully committing to 6 months to a year, no foot out the door, you're all in, is a real magical thing because it really forces you to show up differently.
Yeah. I have a similar, I don't know if it's a personality type, but I have a similar personality type where it's just all or nothing. And I remember the very first day, for the first 2 weeks, I didn't worry about exercising, worry about nutrition. I literally read Atomic Habits, the reference he just gave, and I just started building these habits and writing them down and working out what I'm going to do. And then the first day I started, we have a local mountain, right? And it took me 35 minutes to walk up the bush track to this mountain. And mate, for back then, what a climb it was. And now I could smash it in 10 minutes, no problems. But yeah, that was me. I thought, I'm just going to start, let's take the mountain on day one. So yeah, very cool. Mitch, where can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch and they think, gee, this Canadian fellow sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and fries, I love the fries, and it sounds sustainable. Where can they reach you, Mitch?
Yeah, cheers to the Commonwealth, Canada, represented. Instagram.com/Mitch Calvert Fitness is probably the best place. I post daily, a lot of free content there to help you get started. And MitchCalvert.com if you want to dive deeper into my past blogs and story. Otherwise, I'm all over the internet. But those are the two main hubs for sure.
Yeah, great stuff. And we'll put those in the show notes for the audience as well. Mitch, thanks so much for your time and your energy, mate. Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Kudos to you, man. I mean, I've done lesser scale, 100 plus pounds for you. It's not an easy journey, right? You want to give up all the time, but once you come to the other side, you realize how much better life is, right? Day to day. That's what keeps me kind of grounded in continuing to show up and do the right things, because I remember how I felt on the other side of things, and it was just, everything was harder, mentally, physically. So it's worth it if anyone's on their own journey to keep pushing through, because the bounty is on the other side for sure.
Absolutely. And I must admit, in creating this podcast, like super passionate about sharing the message and helping impact other people. But I thought to myself, if I go down this track, if I create this podcast, 100 Pounds to Freedom, it is the single best way that I'm going to maintain my body weight. It's like, I can't do this if I put on 100 pounds again, Yeah. Cool.
That's great.
Yeah. 100%. Thanks for being on the podcast, Mitch. Appreciate you.
Thanks again. Cheers.
Cheers.